Ohara Davies versus Ismael Barroso, 12 rounds for the vacant WBA interim junior welterweight title. This is the co-main event of Ortiz and Lawson. Let's get into it. Let's start with Ohara Davies, 25 wins, 2 losses, 18 wins by way of knockout. His losses came from when he fought Josh Taylor in 2017 and when he fought Jack Catterall in 2018. He fought Josh Taylor, and Josh Taylor was probably, I would say, up on the rise of his career. So he's got the experience of fighting the top level guys in the division. He's also got the reach advantage in this fight. He's also the younger guy by almost 10 years, right? So that's things to definitely keep in mind. I think Davies is a solid fighter. He's got good power, right? He goes to the body very well. In his last fight, he caught Louis Ritson with a beautifully timed body shot that would have taken out a lot of different people. It was so accurate. It was vicious. It was powerful, all in one. And of course, we saw what happened when the shot connected. So Davies, this is an opportunity for him to continue that body work. And I think he's going to have success there if he goes to it early. Oh, Davies, he's a determined fighter. I think he's got good skill. He's got good timing. I think he's a good counter puncher, and he's not afraid to mix things up on the inside and stand and trade if that's where the fight is going to go. I think once he's in his flow and found his groove, he's going to come on that front foot and he's going to push the pace of the fight. Davies at times, though, to me, is a bit of an awkward fighter, right? He throws shots from weird angles at times, and sometimes it looks like he's crossing over his feet. They're intertwining and tangling, but then he comes through with a body shot, and you're like, wait a minute, like, how did you get that off? So even though it isn't the most technical from a footwork standpoint, it works for him. Like, the athleticism is there. It's apparent. You can see he's a naturally athletic guy, and he can do some things that you need athleticism to be able to do that other people aren't able to do. So he's got that strength about him. Even when he fought Jack Catterall, and, you know, 2 of the 3 judges had that fight kind of close. Two out of the 3 had it 115, 113. I think on paper, it was supposed to be a big matchup, right? It looked great on paper, but once they got into the ring on the night, it was kind of an underwhelming fight, underwhelming performance, I think, from both men, right? So this is a great opportunity here based on what he did in his last fight to become an interim champion, right? But also to make a statement and to really show the top guys that, like, man, like, I'm here. I'm here as one of the best as well, too. It's a great opportunity to make a name for himself even bigger and get those big fights in the foreseeable future. Davies at one point was talking about, man, I want that fight against Tank Davis, right? So if he is still going to continue to speak like that, as he should, the confidence-wise, he's going to need to look impressive here. As the younger fighter, the more skilled fighter, he needs to look impressive, and it's a great opportunity to shine on the first big card of the new year. Let's talk about his opponent, Ismael Barroso. 24 wins, 4 losses, 2 draws, 22 wins by way of knockout. So let's get the elephant out the room. Let's get it out of the way. Barroso, 40 years old. And I mean no disrespect in no form whatsoever, but he looks a little older than 40 to me, in my opinion. He looks about 45, 46, 47 to me. And he even looks older to some people when you ask them. But at the same time, he's got good power. He's got a lot of heart. And even at the age, he can still fight, right? Let's go back to his most recent fight when he fought Rolando Romero. Rolly was supposed to dominate that fight. I thought Rolly was going to dominate that fight. I was not expecting it to be as close as it was. Barroso, as soon as he stepped in the ring, looked like he caught a second win, man. He looked really good to me in that fight. Scored a knockdown in the 3rd round. Barroso is kind of tricky because he's a southpaw, right? We know southpaws has their own way of doing things, and it can be tricky to fight them. That left hand was extremely consistent of Barroso. That left hand was extremely successful, and whenever Barroso really used that left hand, he was able to hurt Rolly. He was able to back Rolly up. He was able to do some things to keep Rolly honest, even though Barroso didn't have the speed or the footwork or the movement to really dominate that fight. He was still able to use his strength, his skill set, which is the power, to be able to keep Rolly in a neutral state. And Rolly was having problems. He didn't really know what to really do. Looked like he was just in there, just depending on his power rather than setting up his shots. And that left hand, Barroso found consistency with it, whether it was to the head, whether it was to the body, right? And again, Barroso doesn't have that speed at this stage in his career, right? And the movements that he was doing, if you are a good counterpuncher, you got hand speed, you will be able to capitalize off some of the mistakes that Barroso was doing, because he was lunging forward. Every time he was throwing that left hand, he was lunging forward. And he wasn't always able to catch himself with the momentum, because he was loading up on everything. And Rolly wasn't able to counter him. He wasn't really able to step aside and really make a difference when Barroso would be overly aggressive, right? Rolly isn't known to be a massive counterpuncher, right? And so it was tough for him to capitalize on those mistakes. And he really didn't do that any of the rounds throughout the fight. I didn't really see too many adjustments of Rolly throughout that fight. Barroso caught Rolly cleanly a bunch of times in that fight, man, but he caught him big in the 7th and the 8th. Barroso was up on the cards, to me personally, and to many of you and to the judges, comfortably. So I'm thinking to myself, wait a minute, can he actually cause this upset? Like, can he hold on? Right? Because we know Rolly's got good power, and he does have that type of power where he can change the momentum with one shot. And we know that Barroso has been stopped 3 times in his career already. Well, 2, 3 with this addition, how the fight ended. And I thought throughout that fight, Rolly was on the back foot quite a bit. Right. And Barroso was the one that was pushing the pace. Now, in that 9th round, Rolly finally started to let his hands go a little bit more, had him up on the ropes, and he was able to score a knockdown himself. But even with the knockdown, how it was scored, man, Rolly did land a clean shot, but he followed through with that right hand and kind of like pushed him down a little bit. So I don't think that was a pure knockdown. I think the right hand would have stumbled Barroso, but I don't know if he would have fell if the push didn't come with it. But we move on. Now, let's talk about that stoppage, right? That to me was a premature stoppage. Rolly was landing big shots, of course, but not all of them were landing cleanly, right? Because Barroso had his head down and he was kind of ducking a little bit. So the shots were landing, but not all of them cleanly. And when you look at the tape and you see the video, Barroso didn't really look drastically hurt. It looked like he was starting to recover a little bit and looking for ways how to limit some of that impact by ducking down. But then the referee stopped the fight. And obviously, we're not in the ring to see the whole entirety of the thing. We can only be on the outside looking in. But from the outside looking in, it didn't look like Barroso was hurt. Maybe that was the different case that the ref saw. So I thought the stoppage was straight bad. It was terrible, wasn't a good one. But at the end of the day, a loss is a loss. And Barroso came out of that fight with the loss. However, it looked like he was winning that fight to that point. It looked like he was well on his way if he could stay on his feet to upsetting Rolly. Nonetheless, we move forward. So Barroso on paper lost the fight, but I left that fight thinking, man, how good really is Rolly? How good is he if he doesn't have that power? Interesting fight, but we move forward. So Barroso is coming off a loss, and he will be looking to upset the favorite again and looking to get himself in a title run and avenge his loss and come out on top. So who wins? I think this is a fight that Davies, it's his to lose, in my opinion. He's the younger man. He's got the better skills at this stage in their career, and he's probably the favorite. I haven't looked at the odds or what that looks like, and I think Davies has got more to lose. But you cannot take Barroso for granted, because he can still fight. He can still punch. He's still hungry. He's still determined. He's still got strong will. And he's a southpaw as well, too. And Davies has not had the most success against southpaws. He lost to Catterall and Josh Taylor, 2 southpaws, and he could not figure them out, right? So that could be something that we're going to see how that plays out. But at the end of the day, I'm expecting Davies to win this fight by stoppage at some point throughout this fight, probably a late stoppage. I think the body work of Davies, if he targets it early, is going to take effect, and it's going to add up throughout the rounds. But Davies cannot take Barroso for granted like Rolly Romero did. You can't take him for granted, because he's still got good skills. He's still got good power, even though he's not the most technically sound guy anymore. He's not the fastest guy anymore. Those intangible things that has made him successful is still there. So can't take him for granted. But at the same time, I'm expecting Davies to win this fight by stoppage, man. I'm expecting the body work, the speed, the youth to come in full force in this fight. What are your thoughts on this fight? Who do you have winning this one? Let me know in the comment section below. If you'd like to support the channel, there's a couple ways you can do so. You can like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you'd like to support by way of donation, you can find options in the description below. Also, my Cash App handle will be on screen as well. Shout out to all of the members holding down the membership section, man. I appreciate each of you. Shout out to everybody that continues to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, man. I appreciate each of you as well. So with all that being said, if you've been watching the video this time, do me a favor and subscribe to the channel, and we'll definitely see you next time.